This is episode 4 of the Car Biz Chronicles, and man, have we had a blast in the first 3 episodes. I hope you have enjoyed watching them as well. Today I'm going to bring you someone that I had never met in person, but had been communicating with for a long time. He's part of what I call the Brother Schomburg, which is my friend Bill Schomburg, who then brought in his brother, John Schomburg, who is on today's episode. John Schomburg's passion is really unbelievable because he came into this business from a different background. He's been in it for over a decade. He's worked really, really hard at his craft. He helped create one of the best Ford stores in the Midwest in a short period of time. And then the group he was with started to acquire more stores and get bigger as a result of the work that they were doing. And it all comes back to people, process, and culture. That's what you're going to hear about in today's episode. You're not going to hear a bunch of marketing jargon that's going to take you in one direction or another. That's not what this is. Today digs really deep into the people in the process and showcases why it is so damn important that we all do better with our people and our process in 2020 and beyond. So grab a pen, grab your teammates, about 35-40 minutes. Sit down and watch John Schomburg bring you some of the best value we're going to see all season. Thank you so much. Hello, welcome to Car Biz Chronicles Season 2. I am joined by John Schomburg. John, thank you very much for joining us, my friend. This year, as you know, the Chronicles are all about people and process, something I know is near and dear to your heart, not only in your history of retail, but obviously in your role today. We like to get a feel for where you're from, John, with regards to your history. Tell us the 30-second version, jokingly. Give us the overview of John Schomburg, how he arrived at where he is today, automotively speaking.
Automotively speaking, my career in automotive began in June of 2000. Okay. My wife, at the nudging of her, pulling out a newspaper ad saying, hey, you need to apply for this internet sales position at Woodhouse Auto Family. And I told her flat out, no, I don't want to. I don't want to sell cars over the internet.
Sure.
I'd had, since 1993, extensive work in the internet environment, doing lots of different things. But finally, after 2 weeks of listening to her, I filled out a resume and sent it off to Woodhouse Auto Family and got an interview with Bob Woodhouse and Lance Pittak and began my career at Woodhouse Auto Family.
How long did you stay there?
I stayed there 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah. 13
years in one group. And you started in internet sales. Where did one escalate to over the 13-year time?
So, as for myself personally, it was just simply within Woodhouse Auto Family.
Yeah.
And we grew from a small Ford store and a Chrysler store across the street in Blair, Nebraska, to I believe it was a total of 8 locations, 12 to 16 brands, whatever it was.
Wow. And you were with the growth? I mean, that happened while you were there?
Yeah.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah. We went from for instance, our website had about 5,000 visits a month, and we grew that to 120,000 visitors a month, 80,000 of them unique every month.
Okay.
So.
And that was for one store, for the group store?
That was ultimately through the 13 years.
Got it.
Yeah, from June of 2000, 5,000 visits a month on up to 120,000 visits in 13 years.
What a difference in 13 years, though.
Yeah.
A vast difference. So when you started in the car business from the outside looking in, how was training?
Literally non-existent.
Okay.
And when I entered the auto business, just from a technology standpoint as well, I felt I'd gone backwards in time. I mean, I'd been operating an internet business, building websites and broadcasting collegiate sports over the internet and so forth. And,
streaming.
Yeah, streaming.
Yeah,
back in the mid-90s. And then entering Woodhouse, it's like we have a phone, we have a fax machine, and we have 3 PCs, and the rest were dummy terminals, as they were called, hooked up to ADP at the time.
Yeah. And
training-wise, it was, your, as they call them, sales meetings with the managers and so forth.
Sure.
And that was just simply a big pep talk.
But there was no walk-arounds, there was no procedural things, what to do, test drives, I mean, there's nothing.
The thing that, so Lance Pittak was a huge customer-oriented individual. Everything was about the customer. And as far as specific training at that time, it was just simply, this is the way you will work it. You'll meet the customer at the door, you'll shake their hand, welcome them to our store, and so forth. And then the pep talks on Saturdays and so forth. So he worked a very basic, whatever he did training on. Yeah, meet and greet. And manager process of helping to work the deal and so forth. But again, it was very basic.
And there's quite a bit more to a car deal.
Absolutely.
Than a meet and greet. It's important.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. So here you are. So you would have gone through 9/11 in the car business.
Yeah.
And you would have gone through 2008 in the car business.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the impact of people and process on those time frames.
Yeah. So in 2001,
you just got here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're thinking to yourself, what have I done, right? I mean,
yeah.
Showrooms dry up, everything goes crazy.
Yeah, so 2000 and then 2001, I mean, everybody remembers that day, but the really big thing was that in 2001, I recognized in my position working with internet sales and so forth, we needed a very solid process with our people.
Okay.
Specifically, here's the leads you're going to be handling. How do we want to handle these leads? What's the whole
So a lead handling process, at the very beginning of it all.
Yeah.
Because we were getting faxed internet leads, right? So
yeah.
I mean, how weird is that?
And we were required, it was like, I think called AutoWeb or something.com back then and so forth. And it was this lead vendor and this lead vendor and this CRM and this CRM. And so it required, and with a Ford store, it was one thing to meet the Ford requirement, it was another thing to meet the Chrysler requirement.
Then Ford Direct came along and just, my goodness.
Yeah. So we were also changing a DMS system at that time. And something that I recognized at that time and went right to my immediate supervisor, who was the CFO of the company. I went to him and said, we need very specific training processes put in place. Technology-wise, our people must have a relationship with software, and they must have a relationship with people. And we need processes and training in order to do both.
Why did you identify that as being something so crucial to what you were trying to accomplish?
I saw where our dealership as a whole for instance, first did not have a relationship with the vendor, be it an ADP vendor, CRM vendor, whatever. Whoever it is. And I see where dealerships fail so often is they complain about their vendors and so forth. And when I walk in and visit with them, it's like, well, do you have a relationship with your vendor? Hell no, they're the worst, vendor that we could have. They have no relationship. They don't want a relationship. And I was like, well, have you tried to have a relationship with them?
Sure.
So, how much effort in that? And so we went to, as it turned out, also my first day on the job there, Bob Woodhouse announced that he was terminating ADP. And we needed to find a different service.
Good first day.
Yeah. So, but until we went from June 20th of 2000 to August of 2001, we had to have a relationship with ADP.
That was your first day, June 20th?
Yes.
That's my first day.
Oh, is it really?
Solid.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Look at that. Everything ties together. June 20th, 2000. All right, we'll never forget.
So in that time period, it was again about relationship. The internet, software, all that stuff. You had to have an understanding of it and have a relationship with it and a process in that relationship. So we attacked that in the dealership specifically with our people, and then we also attacked a process of training with our people specifically on people skills for it. And a big part of that. So taking from 2000 to 2008, we grew to be the number one Ford store in the country competing against Galvin Ford by 2004. Right, so they still are to this day the largest Ford F-Series dealer in the country, Ford. So, but what were the transition or changes was we began a training process with our salespeople. We began a training process with our F&I department, and it actually expanded to all the rest of the other departments.
That came out of 2001 or came out of 2008?
That came out in 2002,
Got it. So after 01, after things slowed down, we saw that we weren't impenetrable. Yeah. You come out. Were you, at that time, you were in internet sales. So was there a division at your dealerships about internet salespeople over here, floor salespeople over here, and so when you were talking about processes, Was it just your team of internet salespeople, or were you trying to do something that included everybody?
It began there first.
Makes sense.
In my department. And Sean, in the side of the office that we're in right now, I had myself along with 4 other internet sales.
This would be a penthouse suite to an early internet sales
Exactly.
manager. Are you kidding me? Back where your brother's sitting behind the camera, wall that off. That's where I started. I mean, it was dark.
And there were no windows.
No, this is not a thing. There's no lights.
Yeah,
It's like Vegas, no can,
So
nothing.
absolutely, it started there in that department.
Yeah.
But as I continue to work with our CFO, we were a tag team of operational changes, and it dealt with technology and it dealt with people. It dealt with processes on technology, and it dealt with.
So from a CFO perspective, never any pushback on the expense of training in time because you kept it very limited. You weren't bringing outside trainers. I mean, how did that work?
It was all internal.
All internal.
All internal.
So when people want to bitch about training costs money,
Your
point is have an internal goal.
Yeah, it falls on us and no one else. If you can't take responsibility for it in-house, why would you throw it outside?
Now, how hard was that from your position, and I remember mine, internet director, general manager of a store. Internet director, change your processes, general manager of a store,
Yeah.
not as interested.
Yeah. So we won that because of again my tag teaming with the CFO.
Top down buy-in.
Yeah. And he had the eyes and the ears of the owners because he was previously their tax man
Sure.
to begin with before. So he knew them intimately, and I had just simply started with them. But through time, certainly the things that I did for the company internet-wise, Bob Woodhouse is like, John, you're the complete success that we have as Woodhouse because of the internet. You took us from a regional dealership to a national, let alone sales worldwide.
It's humbling to hear that, right? Because I hear that from a group of mine that I used to work with, that I helped found back in 2004. I hear that from them today.
Yeah.
Where it's like, dude, we are where we are because of you. And to me, it's like, whatever. It sounds like hyperbole, but how did you take it?
So it's really about team and processes, training with the team. So I'll give you a specific example. With the F&I department, for instance, we met every single week for 6 months with the F&I department and sat them, you and I, this far
Just
apart.
like this.
Yeah, and role played. What's the customer situation? And having the whole rest of the F&I team members gathered in the same room, seeing the one-on-one, and then we'd swap out and do that. And when you go one-on-one with each other, working on how you're addressing the customer and so forth, that to me is training. That is process.
Role playing is the only true training in a car dealership. I mean, you can write stuff down. You can have people sit in front of terminals, take stupid portal tests and quizzes.
Yeah.
None of that matters.
Yeah, scripts written out, whatever.
Boring. Not interested.
Yeah.
Right? Because what happens is people need to be seeing other people.
Yeah.
And maybe what your flaw is, or your issue, maybe is this guy's issue, and maybe now he's like, well, wait a second, they cured it, so now I can maybe I'll change how I come into it. So
absolutely. And
it's cool.
Allowing a person to take ownership of who they are personally. Because you're not me and I'm not you, Sean.
Correct.
But everybody needs to be able to take the ownership of themselves and be able to work within that for it. We set up the structure to say, here's how we want it to occur. I'm going to go back to something very basic.
So good.
The thing that is I'm all about is if you are not taking the first step, the right step first, for it, everything after that is your recovering. Okay, so what I mean by that, Lance Pitak had this philosophy that at Woodhouse, no one touched the front door when the customer was coming in. I mean, the customer didn't touch the front door.
But we were there.
We were there.
We opened it.
We opened it. We met them. We learned the meet and greet was you smile, shake the person's hand, you get their name, you give them yours, and you invite them to use your name in the conversation, because if you're using an exchange of names, now you're working on a relationship and not a transaction.
You just personalized it. You know what I'm saying? Because now here we are.
Yeah. We even taught that, and when you walked into Woodhouse Ford, for instance, there might have been 20 salespeople. At one time, we were on our way to hiring 100 Ford salespeople. Now, through our training process and so forth with our people, we learned to maximize that we didn't need 100 salespeople. We backed that down to 60. But where I'm headed at this with, how intimidating do you think it is for a customer to come up to a store where there are 20 to 40 salespeople?
Come on, man.
Yeah.
It's beyond that.
Yeah, and so that's what we did. We taught our customer to understand that when you come to Woodhouse, you're going to be greeted. We will even meet and greet you at your car door. We'll teach you how to open the car door for the man or the woman and so forth, and make them feel welcome rather than a shark feeding frenzy.
Sure.
There's a big difference.
That's what it looks like though when everyone's waiting out front, you know what I mean? Half the guys are smoking cigarettes, the other half standing there waiting, and now they're on their phones probably, I imagine, on the corners of lots.
And in our world, not allowed. It was, here's how you're approaching the customer and working with the customer, and that word of mouth spreads so phenomenally. You don't get exponential growth in a dealership to go from 100 vehicle sales a month to 200 the next year to 400 the next year, 750 the next year. I'm talking a month,
right?
In sales, because you were advertising or something.
No,
people came to understand this is the experience that you're going to receive at Woodhouse because of the training process.
People and processes was stood apart, and you were able to train your customers because everyone in your dealership followed the same process.
Exactly.
You made it easier. Now you were doing this. This was the Ford store. You talk a lot about that one, but how did the challenge become for you when you had to go multi-rooftop, when you had to start dealing with all of the general managers, all of the different personnel?
With that process in place, and because we had a Ford store and a Chrysler store running at those were the first two stores for the Woodhouse. We were implementing that exact same structure in both stores simultaneously.
Gotcha.
So
when you added stores, they just added in.
They just fell in line. Yeah, this is the process. This is what it's known to be. This is what we teach on, and we just go add another store and do the same.
And did you just within the constructs of the dealership? Did you get up? I mean, you were an internet director.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a chance to be a GM? Did you? No.
I didn't take it.
Never did. So you just said, I like this position. This is what I'm going to do.
When I left Woodhouse in 2013, I started consulting career at that time. And I was also working on an internet project, which is called LotTalk today.
Okay. You started working on that back in 13.
I left Woodhouse to pursue that opportunity. A brainchild within what I was working on at Woodhouse. I said to myself, this is an opportunity where I can take something to be bigger.
I mean, look at us, 2013, you start LotTalk, I start CarBiz. I mean, geez, the parallels are just endless here. When you decided to venture out on your own, and you had a consulting gig, obviously, on the side, were you consulting for yourself, or were you consulting for a major corporation?
I consulted for myself.
Okay, so you were able to do your own thing.
I started an automotive consulting service.
Cool.
While also incorporating and pushing the opportunity for LotTalk forward. But I started with, I went to work for another dealer, which was a Chevy Cadillac dealer in the Omaha market area. And I just simply, when I started with that individual, he said, John, I know your background, I know your pedigree for it. Can you come and help us here? And so, interesting enough, June 20th, I met with him. July 1st, I was full-time employed or consulting with him.
With a new group. This was by 2013?
Yeah, with a new group.
Okay.
And just simply took the same practice, people and processes and training of them and so forth, and went to move that dealer northward as well. Within a year's time, they were selling about 40 to 60 new a month. I took them to a solid 60 a month. The next time I took them to 80 a month for the year following and so forth. In 1 year, we sold 443 additional vehicles for that. And so it's a proven, predictable, repeatable situation, and any dealer can do it if they just implement.
That is really what it's about. I'm currently reading a baseball nerd book about analytics, and the idea is they believe that MVPs are not born; they're created, and they believe that through the repetitiveness of anything.
Yes.
Not the 10,000 master thing, more about just the repetitiveness of obviously good training, right? You can't give enough attention to that. You can't just train shitty things and expect them to get better. But this idea that, hey, look, if you go out and do this and you pay attention to everything about your swing, the launch angle, the lift, how far out. I mean, look at it. When I was a kid, you were raised to wait for the ball to come to you. Now they're telling kids, stand up on the plate, get out ahead of the plate. You think to yourself, oh my God, it's so confounding. But it's what it is, right? It's a change in environment. Where did you notice the consumer change in your time?
Yeah. So that's a great question, Sean. In 2001, when you think about where our industry was, 1995, the internet, and dealers, just the earliest dealers were onboarding then.
1998, faxed leads from Auto Trader. My owner was like, I don't know what these are, but go figure it out. You're the youngest guy I have.
And the approach was, everybody thought that the internet was going to help me buy a car and get the best deal.
Yeah.
And it was all about price.
Correct.
If
we all ran to the bottom. Did the customers ask us to run to the bottom, or we just run there because we didn't know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
But today, it's all about experience. But dealers are not recognizing this huge shift. So at Woodhouse, working with the website and so forth and all of our marketing, we focused on what was the fastest, quickest way to get in communication with the customer and discuss price with them. That's what it was all about. Today, it is about this experience that the customer wants to have for it, and build value through that experience. But so many dealers are still focused on this thing that was 20 years ago already for it.
And now we think everyone wants to buy a car online, so now we're fixated with the new greatest tech. That is nothing. No one's ever asked about that.
Yeah.
No one's ever asked about buying a car online.
Yeah.
They asked about being easier.
And when I was finishing my stint at Woodhouse, the things that I was looking at was there's this shift that's been occurring. And the smartphone, you have to pay attention to what's technology doing.
Sure.
I was buying $2,500 computers that had 500 meg hard drives, and now my phone.
Yeah, I got 120 on my phone. I just bought the new one. Yeah.
And so just Lance Pitek always talked about be a studier of people and be a studier of life. So when you examine those things, okay, what's happening to people? What's happening to their life? What are they using in their lifestyle? And so for me, it was the type of communication. It's got to be right here on my device. Right. And that shift has gone from phone calls that were on our device to now direct messaging.
Correct.
And in 2013, since 2008, I had been monitoring the shift of phone calls to versus email versus text messaging.
Yeah.
Saw the future of text messaging, of what it was going to be in the social environment world, not in the professional world yet. But we sit right on the cusp right now where 30% of professional text messaging is used only 30% of the time in our world right now. And it's going to grow to be over 90%. Well, that's the same trek that email did.
Correct.
Okay? Started out small and grew to be big.
Correct.
So I looked at people and how they were communicating, and it's going to be direct messaging. It's going to be on that device. Everything's going to be on that device until we can just think it and it occurs, type situation. And then when you're communicating with people in the manner they want, well, now the experience is starting out there as well. It's the experience I want to have. It's the communication I want to do it with.
And that's what fuels the LotTalk for you guys today, is the idea of that change of, hey, let the consumer message, let the consumer be available.
Yeah. But that powers every dealer as well. It's just not this product that I'm about and so forth. It's that dealers really need to take a look at their people and processes and the training and understand the training they need to do regarding the technology that we're using within the dealership, as well as training on the
because it's not really a marketing problem.
It's not a marketing problem at all.
In most cases.
Yeah. And Sean, if there's anything that somebody should know about me is I hate advertising, paid advertising and marketing. I'm like, if people and processes aren't working within your dealership, why in the world are you spending anything on paid advertising?
And there's a whole nother, for me, the caveat to that is, if people and processes are broken, then why are you spending money? But more importantly, if you don't have things set up analytically to understand where your money goes or how your spend is occurring, simple things like goals and Google Analytics, why would you be spending $20,000 online and not know anything about a consumer? And people still use the basics, oh, I have a bounce rate, or I have this number of users. Like, this is not 2000. Yeah. Like, you got to take the metric and move well past that. Yeah. How do you balance when you're talking? Because now you're in a different role, right? I mean, you were a dealer trying to make a vendor relationship. Now you're a vendor trying to make a dealer relationship. How do you impart your product as it relates to people and process to the dealers? How do they see that tie together?
First of all, my approach with my product and the use of it in the industry, Sean, I'm looking for a very select segment of the dealer population. And
you don't want else, 8,000 or whatever there is out there.
Because I'm personally about people and processes and training on it. And there's a certain group of, or a certain segment of dealerships that do that and do that well, okay? And as I've been out in the marketplace promoting my product, I break the dealers into 3 groups. There's the innovator, who when I sit down with them and show them what I have, within 5 minutes they're like, I love it.
I get it, I'm interested.
I get it, yeah. And then there's that group we call the early adopters that are saying, well, I'm going to watch A, B, C, or over here or whatever.
Yeah.
And if it goes well for them, I think I'll join in. So let me know. And then there's the herd before, okay. I know that the automotive environment works that way. So I'm just simply looking to put a message out there, a process that's about people and process and an experience that they want the customer to have. And I'm looking for those people who have their ears tuned in to that. And that's maybe 15% of the marketplace.
Yeah, because you're very specific, right? You're looking for a specific style of customer, no different than what we do here at CarBiz. We're not for everybody.
Yeah.
We're well aware of that, and we're actually okay with that, we aren't someone who's trying to be everyone for everyone. We're just trying to be who we can for that.
I think that's super important.
Yeah.
What we talked about earlier about, can you allow a person to be the person they need to be, but also work with them, train them up on just being all that they can be.
Correct.
And then just magic.
And letting them loose, you know what I mean? Yeah, letting them loose. Like I talked to your brother about it, where it was just like, you give people the ability to be themselves, and they'll be it. With people and process, so when you were in the consulting side, and you were someone who was brought in, right? So you have multiple rooftops, you're the headhunter, we used to get called the Bobs from Office Space, whatever, the consultant. How did you look at and get buy-in on the people and process, considering you didn't work there?
Probably a couple different ways. One of them, I let them know up front that I was going to serve them more than they probably cared about themselves, and that they would absolutely feel me as a part of who they are, and what they were doing. And any good leader understands how much they have to serve another individual. And when that other individual feels served, then it's like, hey, this isn't too bad. But then you learn whether or not they're going to take advantage of you or not. It's kind of that's next growing.
Right, point. Leaders serving. Like that to me is a big part of it. I think that's probably why I've never really considered myself personally a leader, is because I don't feel like I serve other people more than they serve themselves. And I don't think I put more into myself. I just don't think that I'm the kind of person who, I wake up this way. Yeah. I go about I get out of bed, this is the day, right? I don't have additional things that I go through to get myself ramped up. I don't even use coffee. You know what I mean? Like so for me it's interesting to see how people, what it takes for them to get buy-in, what it takes them to grow with an idea.
So there's another part of it that one is serving, as I said. The other one is sometimes you have to be the bulldozer. And what I mean by that is...
Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah. I mean, you absolutely have to just simply push through unimaginable hurdles or...
Nonsense. Just nonsense everywhere. Just disbelief, questioning.
And people will be like, well, how long are you willing to do that? I said, I'm willing to do it for as long as it takes. Because this is good stuff. Right. This isn't anything bad.
But that question's concerning to me. When I hear someone ask me, how long are we going to do this? The rest of your life, I don't, you know what I mean? Habits don't just come and go. They need to stay. That's what makes them a habit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you were telling these guys, look guys, I got to push through the roadblocks. You got to follow me to the other side.
Yeah. A quick story on that. This is a great, when we were switching from one DMS provider to the other one.
Okay, when you first got hired.
Yeah, when I first got hired. Okay. So when we installed that new service, absolutely the worst day of my life. Okay, I went down the street and threw up, got sick, and so forth.
By far,
they're
the worst even today.
Yeah.
You couldn't believe what you'd done with yourself. Gotcha. Yeah. You were thinking, why am I here?
Now, fast forward 6 months into the conversion, we're well on our way and so forth, and there was a set of people in the dealerships, the Ford and Chrysler stores, that were saying, no more. We need to go back to the old vendor.
It's not an option,
so it's not an option. And we literally set up the situation that we pulled all the managers into one small room, again, smaller than the size of this office, actually, 20 of them, and told them that the ship had sailed. It's offshore, it's never miles, yeah.
It's gone.
If you want us to go back, it's going to be $50,000 out of each one of your pockets. 20 managers, $50,000 apiece is $1 million. That's what it would have taken us to switch back. All right. We said, you're either with us or without it. Without us. Okay?
Yeah.
We lost only one person out of that group. Everybody else, the very next day, the rest of that afternoon, we were smooth sailing on
the discussion was over. System. But that's because someone of the highest caliber walked in and said, I don't give a shit what y'all talked about. This is the way business goes on.
And that's being that
with repercussions, though.
This is the bulldozer. This is the way it is.
Yeah.
And so serving others and then knowing when you have to be that bulldozer or whatever that's just going to plow through whatever's
serving
required.
Others and being a bulldozer. Almost seemingly on opposite ends, of the spectrum,
Yeah, but you got to know when to do what.
Yeah, when to be who and who to be with. I understand that. So when you go through the consulting gig, so you're in retail, then you're in a consulting gig, and then you're quietly working on your project, LotTalk, as it were. When did you decide that, hey, let's just go, let's go do this thing?
So 2017, May of 2017. Actually, I'll back up very quickly. We had the opportunity to at our Chevy store for the next dealer that I was at in Omaha, the Chevy dealer there. We had the opportunity to sponsor the annual Corvette Club event for the nation.
That.
Yeah. Great group of people. And at that event, I met this man who I'd met back in the 80s, a dealer out in western Nebraska. And he said, John, if you're ever up to something that I should be a part of, he said, I want in on it. And the good Lord just simply placed that in front of me. So that was in July of 2016. In October, I went to see him and say, hey, here's what I'm working on. What do you like it? And he said, I love it. Let's do it. So by May of 17, he was the first stockholder in my company. And at that time I said, see you later, dealership. I'm off and running now on this project full time. So I incorporated and been off and running ever since.
So 2017.
Yeah.
And you have people in process as a part of your own business structure.
Yes.
Right? That's very important to you.
Yeah, we have. So in my own process, Sean, I believe that here's the other thing: if it's not written down, it's not real. You and I can talk about these things and so forth, but if you believe you have a process, well, show me that it's written down.
Document it.
Document it for it, so I can lay it in front of other people and know this is the path that we're running on. And if we there certainly is get it figured out and then do something with it for a little bit of time and discover is that what working or it's not. And if it's not working, change it.
Move on.
There's no set rule that says you can't change it.
Right.
But change it and continue to work on improving it. But that's people and processes within my own company. And
that's awesome.
Well. Yeah.
John, we are up against it. Let me ask you this. If you're going to leave today's dealers with one thought as it relates to people and process, what do you feel stands out the most to you?
Stands out to me is understand what the basics are. Take a look at the environment that you're trying to create, and what are the most basic items that create a better experience. And just for me, it's go back to the meet and greet.
Get back to the basics.
Are you meeting?
These guys aren't even going on test drives anymore, though. Yeah. How is this getting back to doing that? You know what I mean?
Again, it's if you don't want to do test drives, figure out what is going to compensate to do something different that creates what needs to happen.
Right, because there's a lot of intel that's going to come out of that test drive. So how are you going to get that intel if you don't go?
It's super important for it. Again, all those basics: the meet and greet, the test drive, the walk around with the customer on the new vehicle, and the walk around with the customer on their trade-in.
On the trade-in, I never see it.
Make them feel a part of it.
I stand out in front of lots. I do it all the time,
yeah.
And I always joke with my buddy. I said, one of these times I'm going to show up here on a Saturday. I'm going to take it up, and I'm going to do it my way. And I'm going to show everybody how to do it. And he says, when? Always.
Sean, people say to me, well, people have changed and so forth. I said, you know what? People are still coming out of the womb of their mother, and until that changes, people have not changed. So go back and do the basics.
Go to the basics. John, thanks so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Sean.
Folks, thank you so much for joining us. You can check out John. Where can people find you?
John at LotTalk.com.
John at LotTalk.com. He's also on LinkedIn. Check out LotTalk if you get the chance. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again on another episode of the Car Biz Chronicles.